theme for you guys relating to March Madness because if you guys have been paying attention to that, Loyola did beat Illinois, and we're advancing to the Sweet 16 on Saturday. So hopefully we can keep our success up and do another run like in 2018. But you've got an advanced case of March Madness. Take 3 brackets and call me in the morning. And yeah, go Blurs.
Okay, sorry, just trying to make sure people are getting. Oh, my.
I can do the
There we go.
participants.
No, sorry, I was just making sure people are getting admitted. So, yes, as an update for you guys, Executive Council, as we know, we've been talking about it. It's finally been live. Thank you to all the people who have already submitted. We have been starting to parse through those, but as it says on the screen in front of you, it is not too late to apply if you're still interested. Friday of next week, even though we will not be having a meeting next week, as it says the third point there, it will just be due the second day of our Easter break. Feel free to submit it to us at any time, again, to our email, and just kind of adding to what it says at that point there. We will not be accepting late submissions. This is kind of a hard deadline, but you know, you guys have had it for a little bit now, so, and it's not too long either. Don't worry too much about that. Amir, our wonderful shirt.
Thomas, if I can just briefly,
oh sure, yeah, sorry.
We can just briefly add. So, yeah, this would just be a great leadership opportunity. I know a lot of you guys were looking for leadership opportunities, especially this year, and with the pandemic, it's been especially difficult. So if you are going to be on campus next year and still attending Loyola, it'd be a great leadership opportunity, a great stepping stone too, as well, if you're interested in being a part of the executive board potentially in the near future. So maybe not for next year, but in the year after. So just keep that in mind, and it's a good way to stay involved with Amsa as well. So, but yeah, Amir, you can go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah, the Amsa shirts are still available to order. Those are gonna be ending on Sunday, I believe, the 28th. So if you guys are still interested in getting a short sleeve or one of the long sleeves, you can find the links in our emails, and you can go ahead and order those if you want. But yeah, just keep in mind, it does end Sunday. That's going to be the last day to order them.
All right, and then without further ado, since our speaker for this week is on time, I would like to introduce to you all Dr. Hawk Yoon. Our yes, he is currently right here with us already, and sporting no less of an impressive beard, I must say. Yes, Dr. Yoon, please take it away.
Hello, everybody. All right. So as you could see, that was in my a little bit longer beard period. My wife has was graciously non-judgmental at that phase of the game. But I will try not to take too much of your time with my brief presentation, since I want to leave enough time for questions afterward. But I'm presuming that the object of this is just to sort of like give you an idea of one person's path and what I do. So that's what I'm going to do. It feels a little bit weird presenting myself in this way, but here goes. Again, hopefully we'll leave enough time for questions at the end. So I will share my screen. All right. Can you guys see that? All right, so I am Hawk Yoon. I am an attending surgeon at Lurie Children's Hospital, assistant professor of ophthalmology at the Feinberg School of Medicine. And at the end of the day, out of everything I say tonight, only about 5% you should probably remember, if at all, because I ain't that smart. Let me just get that off the bat, okay? You know, as you go along, anytime you give a presentation, this doesn't really count, but anytime you give more of a scientific presentation, you have to disclose if you have any interest. I do have a small FPP family practice grant, but it's very small. And we'll get into the research question later. So I do have some take-home points. My story is just one of a gazillion different stories that you've already heard from other people. There's nothing unique about it. But mine is one of the infinite paths. There are some straight arrows. You guys look around in the Zoom room, and you know there's some straight arrows in there. Fantastic. And then there are people that take a little bit more of a meandering path, which is also just as good. There's no right way to get where you're going. Okay. Again, nothing unique. You guys know this already, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. Work hard, be good to people, and have fun. Okay. So here's my path, and here's what I do. So what's an ophthalmologist? Have you guys had an ophthalmologist present to you guys prior to this? No. Okay. So in a oversimplistic way, we're just eye surgeons. As you guys know, we go to medical school. We do 4 years of internship residency, and some of us do 1 to 2 years of fellowship. In a nutshell, we take care of medical and surgical things about the eye. We take care of chronic medical issues like glaucoma, iritis, urgent medical issues like chemical burns. Of course, we're surgeons. We're a surgical subspecialty. We do trauma, we do googly eyes, cataracts, glaucoma, etc. And then we also do take care of things that are eye complications of other diseases like diabetes and arthritis. Again, you guys know this already, but to make a small distinction, there's sometimes some confusion about an ophthalmologist and an optometrist. An optometrist is a doctor of optometry. They do 4 years of work after college, and they do mostly eye exams and things related to vision, contact lenses, glasses, and they can do a lot more. That sounds an overly simplistic thing, but they do have a limited privileges in terms of giving eye medications. But they're more into vision related things. And for example, I have lots of patients who need contact lenses. I don't do contact lenses. And I send them to our optometrist. Okay. In terms of ophthalmology, as specialized as we are with just these 2 small things here, even within ophthalmology, there are subspecialties, which sounds funny. There's general ophthalmology. So you do your ophthalmology residency and then you can go out and practice general ophthalmology. You can do a 1 to 2 year fellowship in retina, 1 year fellowship in glaucoma, 1 year fellowship in cornea, neuro-ophthalmology, 1 or 2 year fellowship in oculoplastics, and then a 1 year fellowship in uveitis. And of course, the best subspecialty, which is pediatric ophthalmology. And that's a 1 year fellowship after residency. Our governing organization is the American Association for Pediatric Ophthalmology and Strabismus. And this is what I was told. When I told people in residency that I wanted to go on to do a pediatric ophthalmology fellowship, literally they said, "Huh, why are you doing a fellowship to make less money than if you were just to go out and do general ophthalmology?" We'll try to answer that. We are general ophthalmologists for kids. We do everything. So if you go back and look at a retina doctor, if they do a fellowship in retina, they're just going to do retina, which is really cool and fantastic, but they're just going to do retina. If you do a glaucoma fellowship, you're mostly just going to do glaucoma, and you can do a little bit of general ophthalmology. Oculoplastics people will just do oculoplastics. But one of the beautiful things about pediatric ophthalmology is I do retina surgery, I do cataracts, I do glaucoma, I do neuro-ophthalmology, I do plastics. We do everything, which makes it really a lot of fun that we don't have to say we just do this particular kind of surgery. We do all sorts of different kinds of surgeries, but it happens to be with kids. Um, and the thing about kids, I don't know if any of you have younger siblings, um, which is probably not a great example to say that this is a rewarding thing, but dealing with kids is fantastic. It's wonderful. They bring joy to our lives every day, but it also means that it's pretty darn stressful, and it can be heartbreaking. Um, Things don't always go the way you want them to go. And I'll explain a few cases down further along, but um, it can be pretty sad as well. There are those moments, but overall, it's about as rewarding a thing you can do as to help kids. I happen to be at one of the top children's hospitals in the country. Don't ask me exactly how I got here. It's just blind luck. Did you get? Okay. It's very hard to do this over Zoom because you tell dad jokes or dumb jokes like that, and you're not sure if they're going to land or not. But it's just my blind luck to wind up at this great hospital. And one of the great things about peds is that most of the time, and there's always exceptions, of course, that if you're dealing with pediatricians in any sort of specialty, generally speaking, they're pretty nice people, and it's very collegial. And being at one of the top children's hospitals means that the worst stuff comes to us. And so there has to be this collegiality, there has to be this teamwork. And we can have one patient in the pediatric ICU, and there could be 10 different specialties all working together to help this one kid, which is really a lot of fun. I'm talking with neurology, neurosurgery, rheumatology, orthopedics, um, ID, infectious disease. I'm talking with those guys. We call each other all day because we're just trying to bounce things off each other, and it's pretty fun to work in that environment. So that's ophthalmology, and that's actually just working with kids and being at a great children's hospital. Another aspect of pediatric ophthalmology, of course, is the exam. And when COVID started, the hospital really tried to ramp up our capabilities in telemedicine. Can you do what you do over Zoom? And there are some specialties that did really well with this. For example, in fact, strangely enough, neurosurgery transitioned to telemedicine very easily, simply because, and certainly not to oversimplify what they do, but they base a lot of what they do simply on MRI scans, MRI, CTs, things like that. So they'll briefly see a patient, but then most of the stuff that will determine their surgical plans will be imaging, which is easily enough done online. Psychiatry, obviously there's other specialties that transition to telemedicine very well. With pediatric ophthalmology, the exam is crucial. You have to see the patient. You have to look at them. In fact, there are some ophthalmological specialties that might do pretty well. Glaucoma, they're basing a lot on specialized testing of the eye, OCTs, or visual fields. Even retina, based a lot of what they do is on specialized testing, like photographs of the back of the eye, special laser photographs of the back of the eye, things like that. But they asked us to do telemedicine, and we said we couldn't. The exam is crucial for us. This is a representative photo of me. Not me, but this is what I do. Part of what I do with the premature kids. So this is an exam on a preemie in the NICU, and we have to see these kids. There's no way of doing this telemedicine. We have to forgive them. We have to lay hands on our patients. But also, like I said, you have fun. And pediatric ophthalmology is about playing with your kids, i.e. patients, and getting the information you need as you play with them. So this is me using the hand soap to blow bubbles. Okay, and this is me hanging out with my patients before surgery. Okay. One of the joys of pediatrics and pediatric ophthalmology is you really get to see your patient grow up. So I deal a lot with premature patients. So I will literally see kids from before they were supposed to be born. And I've been doing this for 14 years. So some of my kids are now teenagers, and it's so much fun to see them grow up. And on any given day, like we talked about, we are general ophthalmologists for kids. So I'm dealing with googly eyes, which is what I call eye misalignment. Um, I have a pretty heavy practice in eye tumors. I've done 3, 4, 5 congenital cataract surgeries in the past couple of weeks. Congenital glaucoma is something that we do, but luckily my new division head at Lurie Children's, Dr. Bonzak, is a is a pediatric glaucoma specialist. She's probably only one of about 50 of those people in the entire world. And luckily for me, I can pass those patients off to her now. Because a good thing about congenital glaucoma and pediatric glaucoma is that it's very rare, which is why there's really only 50 people in the world. The bad thing about congenital and pediatric glaucoma is it's incredibly hard to treat. So we're very lucky to have I'm very lucky to have a new boss who's this is her subspecialty. Like I said, we're talking with neurosurgery and neurology. We have a lot of patients that have brain tumors. We had a patient, I was going back and forth with some other doctors today about a kid who fell out of he fell off a balcony or something. He had some head trauma, but hey, we found his brain tumor when he got his CT. Lucky for you, you fell off your balcony, or else we wouldn't have found your brain tumor. I'm joking, not joking. Obviously, working at pediatrics, that's incredibly sad, but you want to bring the happiness and the joy, and you can kid with these kids. You can joke with them. You can say to George, who I had another kid years ago who got hit by a car. But hey, we found his brain tumor. Like, aren't you glad you got hit by that car? And that's also part kind of doctor I am. I'm the doctor who shows up in the pre-op area before surgery, like, I'm Dr. Yu and I'm your surgeon today. Goofy stuff like that. Amblyopia, it's just, vision loss, trauma, retinopathy prematurity is my particular subspecialty. Again, that's something that only happens in premature kids. And then being at Lurie, every kid, there's so many kids that we deal with that have syndromes. So again, kids with syndromes, they have eye problems, they have kidney problems, they have heart problems, they have brain problems, and all of us are working together to try and figure out the best path forward for these kids. A week in the life of a pediatric ophthalmologist at a major children's hospital, and certainly this is not representative of all pediatric ophthalmologists. But Mondays I have clinic out in Northbrook. Satellite clinic. On Tuesdays, my big retinopathy prematurity day, so I round on the kids in the neonatal ICUs. Wednesdays, typically my surgery day. And again, so for most ophthalmologists, again, generally speaking, we are in surgery once a week. So in terms of thinking about what you might want to do in medicine, ophthalmology has this great mix, as you can see from my schedule. Yes, I'm in the office seeing patients just in the clinic, 3 days a week. But 2 days of the week, I'm seeing patients in the ICUs and in surgery. So it's a great breakup of your week. You're not in an office every day, and you're certainly not in surgery every day. It's a great mix. So while surgery is Wednesday is my dedicated surgery day, typically I'm in the OR for any other reason on any other day, just for something. Additionally, because we are at a major children's hospitals, we're getting calls every day to see inpatient consultations for this or that. For example, so I just put up, this is from earlier this month, my schedule for that week. And again, this is just hopefully to give you a flavor of what we do. Can you see my mouse? Yeah, so, and I'll explain this a little bit later. So here's a hospital meeting with patients, basically a patient safety hospital meeting. Here's a bunch of staff meetings. This is an RRP meeting. This is a retinoblastoma meeting. This is strabismus rounds, and then basically staff meetings. This one right here is ground rounds for surgery. You don't, and this one's ground rounds for ophthalmology. This is a calendar input for a medical student who's shadowing me that day. And of course, Wednesdays, Wednesday is my OR day, but that's not on my Outlook calendar. So again, a flavor of what we do, and there's a lot to it. We're not just seeing patients and we're not just doing surgery. There's a lot more that we do. To give you a flavor of what kind of surgeries I do as a pediatric ophthalmologist at Lurie, this is my OR schedule from 2 weeks ago. And so Lena, the first patient, is a 2-month-old with bilateral congenital cataracts. So I was doing cataract surgery on her. AV was a nasolacrimal duct obstruction. And so we did a probing and a balloon dacroplasty. SK is my almost 3-year-old retinoblastoma. So she had cancer of her eyes, both eyes, in fact. She actually was first treated in Greece. They took her right eye out in Greece. And then unfortunately, she developed tumors in her left eye. She initially got treated for that in Switzerland before ending up with us here in Chicago. And unfortunately, since she's been here in Chicago with me, she's had 2 recurrences of tumors in her left eye, which we've had to treat with laser. So if you can imagine, I literally have the laser on my head. I'm not kidding you guys. I'm shooting laser out of my forehead and aiming it inside of the eye to burn those tumors. EM is a 6-year-old with chalazion, which is basically a zit of the eyelid, which I hate these surgeries because they're incredibly boring. They're not very challenging. PF, the last patient of the last surgery of that day was actually a eyelid laceration trauma, urgent surgery. So that was an add-on for that. Now, as you can see, look at the ages of these. We got a 2-month-old to an 8-year-old, and look at the variety of surgeries. We're doing intraocular surgery for cataracts. We're doing cancer surgery. And we're doing trauma. So it's pretty varied. And again, that makes it pretty fun. It makes it pretty fun to see this variety of stuff. If you go to my OR schedule for the week after this, CK was my kid who's 3 years old. I started seeing him actually not too long ago, last summer, and he had a tumor of his left eye. And I actually took that eye out because it was too large to salvage the eye. He actually turned out to have what we call a germline mutation. So his right eye was at risk for developing a tumor as well. But luckily, there's been no evidence of new or recurrent tumors in either eyes. So we're feeling pretty good at 3. Hopefully, well, we're not out of the woods, we're getting there. AD is my other retinoblastoma patient, and he had tumors in both eyes that I've been treating. But and for him, we basically only needed to treat he got 6 cycles of systemic chemo, and then I treated his local tumors in his eyes with laser. Again, pew, pew, pew. Last patient of that particular, Hazel, is 9 months old. She is a kid who was born at 25 weeks. So if you think of gestation typically being 38 to 40 weeks, she was actually born at 25 weeks. Okay, so I routinely see kids that were born at 23, 24, 25 weeks. If you can imagine their birth weights being 500 grams, these are itty bitty kids. So Hazel developed what we call retinopathy prematurity, And I treated that by injecting a medication into her eyes. So I blow darted, I injected a tiny amount of medication into her eyes at the bedside. And then 6 months later, at 9 months of age, we do what we call an insurance laser. So I took her to the operating room and then I lasered the insides of her eyes. Okay. Additionally, because I was on call last week, I had a 4-year-old with an open globe, 4-year-old girl. So basically, her sister threw a pencil at her, stabbed her in the eye, and basically with what we call an open globe, which means the eye has been violated and there's stuff coming out. So we have to fix that. And then additionally, and so that surgery went on Tuesday night at about 10 o'clock. And then the next night, Wednesday night, we had this 7-year-old dog bite with multiple lacerations of the right eye. And in particular, the tear drainage systems were transected on both in the upper lower systems. So we had to reconnect those under a microscope and stent them. So that case, we got to the OR about 2 a.m. and we finished up about 5:30 a.m. Okay, so it's a fairly busy. But again, my point is, we're busy. A lot of bad stuff. But this is kind of why we got into the business. This is what we like to do. So you could see sort of my weekly schedule. You can see my OR schedule to get an idea of what I do. And this is the other thing that I was alluding to before. I'm at a major children's hospital. I'm an assistant professor in a division of Department of Ophthalmology. And so in academic medicine, you wear many hats. Of course, I'm here talking to you guys. So that's very much a teaching part of what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm also the medical student director for Lurie Ophthalmology. I also have a strong presence in the ophthalmology interest group for Feinberg, and I take those guys to the community health clinic pre-COVID. Additionally, I think I hope you saw this on my weekly schedule. There's a lot of hospital things that you get involved with because you kind of have to. This is the Process Improvement and Patient Safety Council for the Department of Surgery. I'm also the SIRS delegate, which basically means any serious adverse event, no matter what it could be a parent falling in the hallway to something very serious like a post-op infection. This is actually more to do with like hospital protocol stuff. That gets reported to me if it has anything to do with ophthalmology. Academic medicine, you are expected to do at least a little bit of research. And I'll be perfectly honest with you guys, I suck at research. I'm missing the research gene. They drew blood. I'm missing it. It's gone. It's a deletion. I try to do a little bit, and I'm doing a little bit of clinical research in RRP and some other things, but I'm just bad at it. So, but you do want to help contribute to the fund of knowledge of science. So I'm trying to do my little bit. Obviously, there's all this clinical stuff that we see patients, we do surgeries, but in addition, I'm the director for our RRP program. And so this is developing a program and keeping track of all the things that have to do with retinopathy prematurity, not just seeing patients. So the particular academic track that I'm on is called the clinical educator track. And again, at some point, well, back in the day, to get tenure, to advance academically, you had to do research. And in the past 10, 15 years, I've kind of realized, you get a lot of people doing a lot of research, but they might not actually be good doctors. So they develop different tracks to help people like me advance and toward our strengths and not our weaknesses. Additionally, being at a major children's hospital, being in Chicago, I have actually done a lot in the community. So I'm on the board of directors for Tutor in Chicago, which is a nonprofit tutoring program our secret sauce is we provide one-to-one tutoring for disadvantaged elementary school students. And I was a volunteer tutor for 8 years. And then I got married, had kids, stepped away for a little bit. And then they just recently last year asked me to come back to be on the board of directors. Great program, the tutor in Chicago. I don't know how many of you are from Chicago. Hopefully, yeah. Tutor in Chicago has been in existence for over 50 years. So it's not a flash in the pan. It originally started as the Cabrini Green tutoring program, which hopefully, which may nudge some memory cells in a couple of you youngsters in there. So academic medicine, you wear many hats. Whoa, son of a gun. Never a dull moment. Okay. So I was kind of expecting half of you to be asleep by now. So I thought I'd like show a few things that were, maybe wake you guys up. So the first patient over here, this is actually a pretty sad case. This kiddo came from Denmark to have surgery at Lurie. Unfortunately, it didn't go great. This little girl has neurofibromatosis, which is a syndrome. So they have lots of things going on. They tend to develop what we call plexiform neurofibromas of the orbit. And this kid came and the surgeon decided to try and take this tumor out. And now a plexiform neurofibroma is a tumor, but it's benign. In the process of taking that tumor out, the surgery did not go well, simply because it actually turned out not to be a plexiform neurofibroma. It turned out to be a rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a much more malignant tumor. A plexiform neurofibroma will not kill a kid. A rhabdomyosarcoma will. Now, I got called into this case after the fact to say, now what do we do with this kid that has a rhabdomyosarcoma? And I said, I'm not going to do anything. We need to get oncology. And they did urgent radiation treatment. But there's never a dull moment. This particular kid came to us, obviously with a fish hook in his eye. And that was an open globe. And I did surgery, got the thing out. My biggest concern in this surgery was cutting the fish hook. That's actually dog food. That was their bait, dog food. So in the stress of cutting that fish hook in half to get it out, I was really worried that as I was putting pressure on this fish hook, the tension would get transmitted to the part in the eye and I'd do more damage. But we did it and it went great. This other picture. This is what we see. This is retinoblastoma. This is a tumor inside of the eye. Okay. This particular kid, if you can see, this tumor is so big, you really can't see any other normal things in the back of the eye. This eye had to come out. So there's never a dull moment. Except when I fall asleep in the middle of clinic. This particular kid, he had another kind of tumor in his orbit. It's called a lymphangioma. Again, a benign tumor, but they have these spaces where they can get bleeding and everything just blows up. And so I remember they called me to the ER and they said, in the matter of a day, this kid's eye just blew up and is popping out of his orbit. I said, oh my gosh. So I asked, I was literally not even in the room yet. I asked the doctors, well, has he been sick recently? And they're like, oh, he's had a cold. I'm like, well, I can tell you what this is. This is lymphangioma. And it turned out to be right, which doesn't happen often with me. But yeah, this is I initially treated this by sticking a needle in there to drain it twice, which kind of worked, but I kept rebleeding. So at that point, I had to call our interventional radiologist to do what we call sclerosing treatment. And that wasn't my initial plan because we knew from the MRI that part of this tumor was extending into the brain. And I didn't necessarily want to inject a toxin into this tumor to shrink it because I was worried that some of that toxin would get in the brain. But after 2 attempts of draining this, we tried it and it worked. And he's a teenager now. He's 20/20 out of that eye. He's doing great. And that's me sleeping. My staff probably has 50 of these photos hanging around of just me falling asleep in the middle of clinic. So that's what I do. That is pediatric ophthalmology. Not every pediatric ophthalmologist does what I do, but that's a flavor of what I do. To sort of like briefly finish this up by telling you about my journey and how I got here, and frankly, I'm not sure how I got here. I just wound up like here. 20 years ago, 20 years ago in medical school, I didn't say to myself, I want to be a pediatric ophthalmologist at a major children's hospital. But you work hard, you do right, and you just kind of end up following this path. So I grew up in the great state of Idaho, where, in Idaho Falls, Idaho, where half the town had to do with agriculture, and the other half of the town had to do with this national engineering laboratory. So at any given day, the conversation would either be about the harvest or about the nuclear waste at the site. I was a country kid who went to the big city for college. Got mugged my first summer in Chicago. I remember, I don't know if you guys at this point, but during O Week, again, this is more than 25 years ago. During O Week, you have to take placement exams. So you sit there every morning and take an exam to see which courses you can get into. And I don't think they do this anymore. But I remember walking out of chemistry. I did the first 10 questions like, yeah, I don't know this stuff. And I just walked out. I literally walked out of there and I said to myself, 5 years for college, 5 years. All right, 5 years, maybe not 5 years. And that's my point to you guys. There's no, there's different ways. I graduated in 4, blah, blah, blah. But everybody has a different path, okay? And certainly O Week, freshman of college, I didn't know I was going to be here. I didn't know I was going to be here. Having said that, in the end, for you guys, by the time I reached my 3rd and 4th year of college, I was like, okay, I had caught up. But I probably knew that I wasn't quite ready to do what my classmates were doing, which was, go to New York for consulting, graduate school, medical school, law school, all that stuff. I was like, I don't know, hell, I don't know. So I joined the Peace Corps. I was a PCG 95, 97. And my group was the first group back in country since the Peace Corps got kicked out in 71. They thought we were spies. Again, this is my plug. If you're straight arrow, fantastic, but don't be afraid to be a meandering arrow. So I spent 2 years in the Peace Corps. I had a fantastic time. It wasn't easy, guys. I had tons of fun, but it wasn't easy. 21 of us started in Miami in 95, in September of 95. Only 7 of us finished our service. Okay. Wasn't easy. Okay. Medical school at University of Utah. As an Idaho resident, I got a little bit of discount on my tuition. For any of you who have never been out west per se or been to Salt Lake City, that's where I went to medical school. Jeez, it was beautiful. I mean, the medical school is up on the hill. You could literally walk out the back door of the hospital and be on a trail up in these hills in like 50 yards. Think about it. Think about it. Medical school is a chance to see other places, do other things. And again, do something else before medical school too. Okay. Ophthalmology residency, I did at the Medical University of South Carolina at the Storm Eye Institute. Again, you can tell I've been to a lot of different places. Okay. My way is not the right way. It's just, I can just say I had a great time. I will brag a little bit. My surgery internship was the last year before the 80-hour work week for residency training. And so there were some months I was doing 120, 130 hours per week. I remember being on transplant, going on a transplant run on a Thursday night, and got home, Friday morning, worked all Friday, went home Friday night, get a phone call at 7 p.m. Hawk, be at the airport in half an hour. I'm like, yeah, I went last night. They're like, be at the airport in half an hour. I was the chief resident my final year at the Storm Eye Institute, which was me yelling a lot at my co-residents. But I had a great time. And then again, fellowship. So I did pediatric ophthalmology and strabismus fellowship at Michigan Kellogg Eye Center. And for pediatric ophthalmology, there's about 60 fellowship spots in the nation. Only about 25 people apply, okay? Which is what Dr. Saunders, my mentor, said. Geez, Hawk, even you can go somewhere good. Thanks, Dr. Saunders, for the support. Thank you. I went somewhere great. This is actually me on a mission trip to Guatemala when I was a fellow. Actually, the mission trip was not through Kellogg Eye, University of Michigan. It was actually through my old mentor and residency, Dr. Ed Wilson. He called me up and he said, Hawk, I know you're at Michigan. You want to come on this mission trip? I said, yes, let's go. So this is doing surgery in Guatemala. This looks like a cataract surgery. Yeah. And then I wound up at Lura Children's, or what was known as Children's Memorial Hospital, for my first real job ever. Jeez. And that was how I got here. Why do we do what we do? You could have one of your patient's moms write a book and you're in it. That could be something, which was quite embarrassing. Or of the many other reasons I do what I do, my family. And that's it. How much time do we have for questions? So I'll stop sharing.
You got about 15 minutes. So if anyone has any questions for Dr. Yoon, now's the time.
This is actually, this is not a forever hold your peace moment. Okay. I think Thomas has my contact info. If you have questions, ask Thomas for my contact information. But so this is not your last chance.
I have a question. It's
Yes.
kind of just a clarification. So my question is, do you diagnose and treat the same patients? Like, do you diagnose them and also perform surgery on them?
Yes. They're mine. They're my patients. They're my kids. There are obviously cases where you need help and you have to refer out. But that's one of the great things about Lurie. I have to refer a patient out of Lurie maybe once a year. And actually, I just had to send a kid to CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, just last week. But we do it all. We do it all. But yeah, so basically, I see my patients. They refer to me for surgery, or they know the reason. And if they need surgery, 95% of the time, I'm the one doing it. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting what you were talking about, how there were like certain paths you could take without doing research if it wasn't for you. Is that only for ophthalmology, or could you do that for other specializations? Do you know?
I think for after you're done with your training, a lot of academic centers do have these tenure tracks where you don't have to do a lot of research. Having said that, I'll be frank, as you start your process to apply for medical school and residency and things like that, you need to be able to show that you know how to do research. And it's not necessary that you have to have these big papers or publish 20 things, but you need to say, I've been involved and I helped write the institutional review board application. I helped write the protocol. I did the data gathering. And again, you don't have to say like, oh, we had this beautiful paper published. But when we look at candidates, we want to say research is obviously a huge part of medicine in general. But and we don't necessarily think you have to be this world-class researcher, but you do have to be able to show that you do know how to do it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much.
So I had a question. Obviously, it goes without saying that you have quite the impressive array of things in your pedigree. But I mean, with I don't know, from my understanding of academic medicine, as well as working alongside in clinic, and from what it sounds like, some nights where you're on call and having to come at 2 a.m. just for an operation. How do you balance everything? How does how do you get time for your family? How does that all end up working out?
Ophthalmology. So part of what's changed in 20 years since I was training was the 80-hour work week. So in training, it's 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 better. It's better. Like the resident I was working with Tuesday and Wednesday night when I was on call, he actually went home Thursday morning. I actually drove him home at 6 a.m. and he's like, I'm over my hours. I'm going home. And I'm like, that's great because I have to go do a full day clinic. Thanks. At the end of the day, everybody talks about, all of my colleagues and all the people who coach us and help us and support us. They always talk about work-life balance. And I think my balance is pretty good. I think ophthalmology lends itself to having a better balance than maybe other specialties. As cliche as this sounds, is if you're doing what you love, you're gonna do it. I don't know. I know. I have a healthy balance. Don't ask my wife this question, but she's actually fairly busy too. She's a cookout and prosecutor. So which is how we met. Just kidding. Just kidding. That's not how we met. Yeah, that's not how we met. But I think for us, so everybody does this. For us, weekends are weekends. I will not generally not look at my emails, not do anything on the weekends because that has to be the way. And you have to set limits. And I do think, Thomas, I do think that in general, most institutions are starting to understand that they need to promote a work-life balance. They're going to have better physicians, staff, which means they're going to have better outcomes. So overall, I think people in general, it's getting better, but you just have to draw the line and say, this is where I'm going to be home and this is where I'm going to work. Yeah. But again, ophthalmology, just for a plug, is not that bad. The work-life balance is not bad at all. Yeah.
I have a question as well. I was just wondering, what was your motivation to go into medicine?
Um, so, I wasn't the best undergraduate student. And truth be known, my pre-med advisor kind of steered me away. She's like, maybe medicine's not for you. So that was one of the reasons I went into the Peace Corps. I was like, I need to think about this. Um, Really, at the end of the day, I did this sounds a little arrogant. I was like, I think I'm smart enough to do it. And at the end of the day, where, and it sounds corny, but where am I going to do the most good in the world? Again, it sounds corny, but like, where, what's going to maximize my abilities and my contribution? And it really came down like, I think that might be medicine. If I went to medicine, I teach. Other than medicine per se, I think the two noblest things that you can be is a farmer and a teacher. Um, but I think it's just trying to figure out where I could do the most good. I kind of figure I could do other things, but I think I could be a good doctor. So yeah, and to be quite frank, I lucked out. I love what I do. I really truly feel I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Just one more question from me here. I've been kind of like interested in academic medicine as well, but I always was told that um, it's one of the most thankless parts of medicine because, as you kind of brought up, like all the different hats that you're wearing, plus the clinical, plus the expectations for research. Um, and so how did you find yourself then going towards that? I don't know if that was part of how you thought
Yeah,
about it
I
when you
don't,
approached it, but
I didn't, this sounds horrible. I didn't seek it out,
okay.
um, because there are so few pediatric ophthalmologists being trained, um, um, they're looking for people. So again, I just got lucky. So in fellowship, my fellowship mentor, um, was, is actually best friends with the former division head. And so I remember sitting there in clinic as a fellow, and Dr. Damonte, Dr. Messa's on the phone for you. Okay, blah blah blah. I don't care. Right. 10 minutes later, Dr. Yoon, Dr. Messa's on the phone for you. I'm like, what? She got on the phone. She's like, hey Hawk, I talked to Marty, and we're looking for somebody, and would you be interested? And I kind of fell into it. Having said that, again, I do think I contribute as well as I can. And so, but specifically to your question, yeah, it's busy. Yeah, it's hectic. Yeah, I don't keep up with all my emails. Um, but it's fun. It's fun. I mean, you're in these meetings, and 99% of the times I'm not contributing anything, but I'm learning stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I never knew that. And then that 1% of the time I'm like, well, what about this? Oh, okay. It's actually kind of fun because you learn so much, and your days are not boring. And so I don't know, I want to say thankless because you're doing it because you're having fun and it's interesting to you. Yeah. Anybody? Um, Again, if there's other questions, you want to just ask Thomas to send the contact information, that's perfectly fine. Again, I want to stress that my story is not everybody's story. You can grab any one of my colleagues and they're going to have an even better story to tell, which is great.
Well, Dr. Yoon, thank you so very much for coming in today. This presentation was absolutely wonderful. Yes, applauses all around. This was definitely one of the best presentations we've had at AMSA thus far. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys soon. Right.
Take care, sir. All right. Well, with that, let's go back to our slide here. All right, yes. Wow. Oh boy. I mean, I knew this guy was great. I was so excited to hear about his path to this, and he definitely did not fail to impress. I will absolutely make sure to get that his email sent out to you guys. And yes, no meeting for next week. And Yatsani, if you will.
Yeah, so I know we really haven't had much time to kind of connect as our general body. So I will be hosting our Jeopardy game that we tend to do each year. It's going to be lots of fun. So, if you want to take a break from everything that's pre-med and just life, come hang out with us. It's going to be super fun. I'm going to try to be like a little announcer. I'll have music and all that stuff. It's just going to have all facts about pre-med, some stuff about Loyola, especially for you freshmen. Sorry, it's been a long day. Yes, there's some things that, hey, you might know, you might not know. We'll figure it out together, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I'd appreciate if you guys could come. Groups will be made randomly, so you'll get to meet a lot of your peers, hang out with board. So it'll be a good time. I hope to see you guys there.
And so with that, such concludes our meeting for the week. And going ahead, happy, wonderful Easter break. I hope you guys take some good time to rest and enjoy it, because I think, yeah, then we're in the home stretch and semester is almost at an end. But thank you guys so much for coming out again, and we will be seeing you on the flip side. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care, guys.
you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Yoon be my dad.